I'm Karen Covell of the Hollywood Prayer Network, and we are glad to have you at this episode of Hollywood Changemakers, our podcast talking to and about people in the entertainment industry. I am very excited today to introduce you to not only a dear friend, but our newest guest, Spencer Folmar, who is an independent producer. He also is a talent agent, and he has a lot of stories about what it's like to be a Christian and an independent filmmaker. Hi, Spencer. How are
Karen.
you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Now all of our conversations become official.
Yes.
Right now, yes.
Okay.
So, no. Well, you know, I fell in love with you immediately when I met you. You have such a vision and a heart, the way Jim and I do, and we know we're going to spend eternity together. And in the meantime, this crazy journey in LA together. So I want you to talk about how you decided to become a producer, why, as a Christian, you decided to go the route of independent production, and what your story is.
Brian, thank you so much for having me, Karen. I love Hollywood Prayer Network. It's like my favorite ministry in the world. I've lived a lot of different places, but the Christian community here is so vibrant, and Hollywood Prayer Network is my favorite ministry. So it's a real honor to be here.
Thank you.
So I always knew I wanted to be a film director, film producer. I grew up in the sticks of Pennsylvania, didn't grow up religious, didn't grow up going to church, didn't actually convert to Christianity until I was 21. And at that point in my life, because I always knew that I wanted to be a filmmaker, I now had this 180 conversion at this Bible school in New Zealand, and I realized that my life wasn't meant to be to glorify myself, but it was meant to glorify God. And so I wanted to understand what that meant. Mm-hmm. And I also want to make films that accurately reflected God and not, you know, just fluff pieces or candy-coated, happy ending only films. Because, you know...
aren't Christians just perfect?
Aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We'll talk about that later. But so I actually, after I went to Bible school, I went to seminary. I got my Master's of Theology, and then I went to NYU for my MFA in film. Because I wanted to write scripts about God, and I wanted to reflect Him accurately, and have hard-hitting theological films as well. And so my first film in this experiment, which we call Hard Faith.
I love that title of a production
Thank you.
company. Hard Faith is
Yes.
perfect. Yes.
Life is hard, faith can be hard, hard faith. And so we want to tell accurate, realistic, gritty, redemptive stories. Because most faith-based films are synonymous with family-friendly entertainment. You know, they kind of sand off the rough edges. Anything that is not appropriate for the whole family, they remove it.
And you're thinking more like the Bible?
Yeah, more like the Bible, right? You know, the Bible has a lot of really R-rated content in it.
You're not kidding.
And God didn't shy away from that, and He didn't shy away from us. And I also believe, personally, that there should be redemptive films that deal with adult issues, realistic issues, because that's how most people convert to Christianity. It's not because they want to win the football game. It's because they come to a moment in their life, a crisis, and there's no other option but to believe in God and to reach out to Him in a very desperate place.
Right. How do you handle the struggle?
Yeah, exactly. And so I want to reflect that on film. Our first film was called Generational Sins. It was about two brothers who return home to reconcile with their alcoholic and abusive father. Heavy-hitting film.
Heavy-hitting. I saw it. Amazing.
Yeah, it was a PG-13 film. It had some language in it. And so we got a lot of press because in the Hollywood Reporter it said, new faith-based film filled with F-bombs. And that wasn't actually true. It was kind of, you know, press
really,
embellishing. But it did have some language in it. And I got 4,000 emails the night that that press article came out from Christians around the world condemning a film that would have language and also talk about Jesus in the same 90 minutes. And so it was a little bit disheartening, to be honest.
Yes.
But the next morning, I got a call out of the blue, didn't recognize the number, and it was from you. And you called me and you wanted to encourage me and say that if there's anything that Hollywood Prayer Network can do to support me, there's other Christians in Hollywood that will support me in this film and believe in what we're trying to do. And so that has always meant so much to me. So thank you for that.
Well, I'll never forget. I had no idea about the 4,000 emails, but my husband Jim and I saw the film and we're like, this is really dealing with life. We loved it. Well done, good story, hard stuff to handle, which is what you said. People want. They want it. What do you do when life gets hard?
Right.
That's the bottom line. So
Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you. That's encouraging.
Thank you. And then after that, I went to my first Hollywood Prayer Network event, which was the Oscars Prayer Walk. I'd never gone to anything like this. You know, whenever you choose a seminary, you kind of just associate with that one particular denomination. But out here in Hollywood, what's beautiful is that when you go on a prayer walk or you go to a HPN event, you meet Christians from all walks of life, all denominations, all backgrounds, and you're all unifying because it's not popular to be a Christian necessarily in Hollywood. You know, in other parts of the country, other parts of the world, if you're a Christian, you might get a job promotion, you might get elected. But on the, West Coast here, it's not, doesn't actually, on the front lines, it doesn't really work out that way. So we feel more like a remnant. So we unify more than we are divide in the best case scenarios. And I find that most especially at HPN events.
Oh, well, that's so true because we find when you're in the foxhole, it doesn't matter what denomination you are. You need each other and you need Jesus. And that's the bottom line. And so everything else just kind of disappears with that focus of needing each other and needing Jesus.
Amen. I love that. And that's just such a refreshing perspective for the church, for the country, for the world today, is just unifying over Jesus. And you don't find that often, but you really find it here in Hollywood, and you really find it with HPN. So I'm so thankful for that. After Generational Sins, my next film was on the opioid epidemic. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, had a lot of classmates that unfortunately passed away from fentanyl and heroin use. And so we made a film based on real-life stories from back home called Shooting Heroin. And it was on the opioid epidemic about a small town that comes together to try and stop the spread of drugs to save the kids.
And it was so powerful.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's potent, and it's R-rated because this is a very serious topic, and the people portrayed, we try and portray them realistically. I mean, that's really the heart of hard faith, because there's no real point to censor the world. Because if we're censoring the world, then what's the point of atonement? What's the point of the crucifixion? You can look at the cross and the bloody example there to know how bad things are, that they're worse than R-rated.
Absolutely.
And I was worse than R-rated, and still yet God loved me despite that. And so that's the kind of hope that we want to bring in our films, even in dark situations like child abuse and alcoholism and the opioid epidemic. And our next, not the next film, but one of our next films is about suicidal ideation and the depression and despair of the younger generations. We want to bring hope to these extremely dark situations, and we have the only antidote to despair, which is the hope of Christ.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. And to show what you've personally gone through from being in a dark place to being completely renewed and redeemed by Jesus. You want others to have that same experience.
Absolutely. It's the only hope we have in this life. And so after Shooting Heroin, it actually came out during the global pandemic. We had a premiere at a well-known film festival. We had a 400-theater release, and all of that went away in the blink of an eye.
So painful.
It was so painful. It was a time of my life where I learned to be still and know God is God, that He's in control even whenever everything else seems completely out of control and backwards.
So true. We're reading a book by Pastor Mark Batterson, and he says, faith does not reduce uncertainty, faith embraces uncertainty. And in these uncertain times, when you had 400 theaters that went away, that's when our faith really comes into play.
It sure does. Yeah, and that was a tough season, but what happened there is I pivoted. I used to own a small theater chain in a few states. I sold the theaters, and I pivoted to creating a talent management company because, Shooting Heroin, the theatrical release, became just a cable and streaming release. We moved on from that and then started a talent management company because as a director and as a producer, I get to work with different artists, but you only get to work with them for a few weeks, and then you see them at the red carpets or the film festivals. But you don't necessarily get to continually work with them. There's not always the right role for the next film to work with previous actors. And so what's great about being a talent management company is that you get to work with artists ongoing and be able to champion their careers and be advocates for them and to really just encourage them because this is a tough industry.
Oh, it's so hard, and I think it's hardest for actors because they are dependent on other people to hire them. They can't create a story. They can't start a movie or raise money. And to know that they're cared about and that they do have value and there's someone there rooting for them, I think that's so Christ-like. It's really great.
Yeah, and it just, it's a difficult industry. Sometimes you get, beat down, or critics, or other Christians, or whoever it might be. It can be a really tough journey. Mm-hmm. And so if we can encourage one another to keep going on and to motivate one another, I know I've needed that in my life, and I've received it from dear friends and Christians. Mm-hmm. And I want to be that to others. And that's what the talent management company really is. That's the heart of it, is it's a synergistic kind of environment where hopefully a rising tide lifts all ships. And it's been really gratifying so far.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, that's brilliant in itself, but also what I look at is you are developing talent that then you can use in films as like a company. There's such a great thing about theater companies who all work together. Yeah. Why not have a sense of a film company, people who all want to work together? Christopher Guest had a great example of that with his improv team that he made 4 or 5 movies with, and got to know each other and work together. And really, you're doing that as well.
Yeah. I love it because, as a management company, as a producer, some of my clients, we have about 80 clients right now, most of which are actors, but we also have creative professionals, writers, directors, producers. And so we can work on each other's projects, try and help get each other jobs, keep people employed, and find new opportunities to continue to make our projects better. So it's been really great. I've already learned so much.
Oh, it's brilliant. And it's also a reminder, Jim and I talk a lot about how we have to keep reinventing ourselves because the industry changes so quickly.
It does.
That we have to take the skills and talents that we have and figure out, okay, now what's best for now? And you're realizing moving into this area of building up talent is just right for these times.
It really is.
Yeah.
And there's great representation out there, but I know as a producer, and I'm sure you've had this experience before, where you send out an offer and you never hear any response.
All the time.
And then you talk to the actor and they never even see the offer.
They never even knew that it came in.
Right. So just that alone, it's ripe for disruption because there's some processes and systems in this industry that are very archaic, elitist, and outdated.
Too many gatekeepers.
Too many gatekeepers. So if nothing else, we just want to be hands-on and be responsive to our clients and to people working with us and be able to work with productions to get our cast into their films and have an easy, smooth process for everyone as much as possible.
Oh, that's great. So what's coming?
Yeah, so Hard Faith is its own production company. I'm in the process, actually, of pre-production, and we're going to go into principal photography this summer on a new film for Hard Faith. It's called Bright Sky. It's a modern Western romance dealing with some serious topics of prostitution and abortion, some heavy issues. And we're filming it in Colorado. Nathan Clarkson was the writer. So this is one of the first films that I'm directing and producing, but I didn't write the script, but it's been a really interesting process and love the script, love Nathan. I've worked with him on other films. And then his wife is actually Keelia. She's the lead star in the film. And we have some familiar kind of faith-based actors. It's a PG-13 film. And so we're still advertising it to all audiences, but it definitely has a really strong message of faith. And we're really excited about that.
Oh, that's amazing. And then what are you doing about distribution? That has changed so much in the last few years.
Yeah, distribution. The reason why I started owning a movie theater company, a theater chain, is because I'm constantly trying to figure out distribution. There's amazing Sundance-winning, Oscar-nominated films that still don't make their budgets back. Yeah. And I go to AFM every year and I say there's like 400 companies here, and there's only a handful that are not blatantly trying to rob independent filmmakers.
It's so true.
So
true.
I'm always trying to find and point other filmmakers to distributors that I know are honest, that actually pay on time, pay what the filmmakers are due, and that way these filmmakers can make another film and I can make another film and return an investment to my investors. And so we're looking at different distribution partners. Each film we've gone out with a different distributor because we're still trying to test those waters.
Yes, trying to find the right partner.
Yeah, we'll see who we partner with. Right now it's not known, but we have a couple of partners we're excited about.
Oh, that's great. Tell me how your faith makes a difference in your work.
Yeah, so I remember my life without faith. And I remember my greatest fear in life was just to die without having lived a good life, without have achieved something of importance, never winning an Oscar, never being in the history books. And that drove me almost to insanity because I just always felt like I was never doing enough. Pandemic happens in my faith, and I can't do anything. Everything's shut down. My theatrical release is canceled. My theaters have no new films to show. We don't get the premiere at the film festival. And I realized, and I continue to realize this every day, that my faith sustains me day by day because I can't control my outcome. I can't control the future. I can do everything I can to work hard today and to try and create a better future for me and my clients and our company and our films. But at the end of the day, I have to work my hardest, but then rest knowing that God has it all in control. And he will either bless and open the right doors, but also he will close doors that I'm not meant to walk through. And so it just gives me a peace, like the peace that surpasses all understanding.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the greatest gifts of Christianity and the world doesn't have. And so I can have peace in spite of my failures, in spite of my setbacks, and I can have peace that the future will be better than I can imagine because God is planning it for me.
Well, and that's one of the main issues that I find with non-believers, both coming into the industry and those who have absolutely made it, is peace.
Yeah.
The ones coming in are scared to death. They're never going to make it. They don't know how to pay their rent. They don't know what to do. The ones that have already made it say, is this all there is? This is not fulfilling. This
Right.
doesn't give me what I thought it would give me. And that lack of peace is so powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
That peace, that joy, that energy. And I remember my life, the first half of my life, I didn't have that peace. I felt always so nervous and stressed and full of anxiety and fear. And I remember meeting a few token Christians that really kind of shine light in the darkness for me. It was relatives that had faith or some pastors that I would see on TV or, some films that would kind of show that light yourself. And it's just such an example because, there's an authentic Christianity and Christians are on different journeys.
Yes.
There's this kind of, I think, misconception that once you come to faith, everything is worked out.
Everything is good.
And you're just
Life
this
is
perfect, joyful, peaceful person.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been crawling this journey for 12 years, and I know that's not true.
It's not true. It's good to remember a church is not a hotel, it's a hospital.
That's right. It is a hospital, and we all need the great surgeon. I need the great surgeon. And so just walking every day and trying to be that peace and joy to others because I know what it's like to not have that.
Oh, it's so true. You are so generous to other people along the way. That's a quality that so stands out to you is that you do not put yourself first. You always put other people first. Do you find people responding to that in any way? I'm sure there's a sense of, why are you wasting your time helping that person or something?
Yeah, it is something about me in which the management company really allows me to be able to
That's right.
do that on a regular basis, is to try and put others first and look at their careers and be available to them. And it is a unique thing. I mean, it's something that I'm still kind of wrestling with myself because in this industry, it's about your image, your platform, how many followers you have,
How many credits you have.
how many credits you have, are you overselling yourself, because everyone's trying to oversell themselves to get that higher job. And so it's been a real kind of journey getting into the industry fully, especially as a talent management company, and understanding where you can be generous and where you should talk about, what you're doing and not be too humble about that because it's also, I'm speaking blessings of how the Lord has blessed me.
Yeah.
It's not boasting. I'm trying not to boast, but it's
you want to give him the glory.
You want to give him the glory and you want to motivate others that they can achieve more than they may have thought. But it's a balance for sure.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, it's beautiful. I love it. What do you say is one of your biggest struggles in trying to live your life out as a Christian and also to be pursuing a very difficult life as an independent producer?
Yeah. I mean, the struggle is that as an independent producer, typically you just go from one film to the next. It's like a startup film. A film is a startup company, right? So you make this movie, you create an LLC, you fundraise for it, you see it all the way to the last foreign territory sold, and then you move on to the next film. And it's really trying to connect the pieces between each and every project so that you're not just going like this, but that you're always going up and that you're getting productions better and new stories to tackle. and to not become complacent, right? Because even especially, I think, in faith-based entertainment, it can become very formulaic. And we're not looking to do that. We want to be disruptive and reinvent the wheel with every film, because faith isn't formulaic. It's not do this, this, and this, and you'll have a perfect life, or you'll, believe in Jesus. Or it's often a very crooked line.
It is.
And that's how it is as an independent.
Yeah.
And that's how it is as an independent film producer too. So it's that perseverance of the saints. Charles Spurgeon said that by perseverance, the snail too made it to the ark. And I feel like that snail some days. You just have to keep going towards the target.
As slowly as it feels like it's happening, that's true. I have found an analogy between a missionary, a Christian missionary, and a freelance artist, and that is every day you need to raise support. You need to keep different sides of your personality going. You've got to raise money over here, but you've got to serve people over here. You have to spread your vision to the ones who are supporting you, but you need to pour into the ones you're ministering to. It's the same thing in independent producing. You're raising money, you're trying to make a living, you're got a creative vision, you're trying to make happen, you work with all these different people, and it's really a very good comparison to say whether you're a Christian missionary across the world or you're a Christian as an independent filmmaker, it's the same journey. You need the Lord, and you need to see miracles, and you just every day figure out what you should do next.
Yeah, and community is just so important too, because especially in this industry and in the city of Los Angeles, it can be very isolating. Being plugged into a church, getting a community, going to ministry events, going to prayer walks, even if it feels awkward. It was extremely awkward for me the first time. But I was so rewarded because I got to meet so many new friends and colleagues and people to motivate me along life's somewhat difficult journey.
Do you have any advice for somebody in the industry who's trying to get moving forward, or for somebody outside our industry who's listening to the podcast?
For people in the industry moving forward, I would say that it is that perseverance. It's that relentlessness, that most of the people who are successful in this industry are people who didn't give up. As long as you don't give up, as long as you keep trying, even if you fail horribly, as long as you keep trying, you will be successful. So people in the industry, that would be my advice to them. And also, don't be afraid to reach out to others, because people like helping others. I like helping others. Other people have helped me along the way. And so developing those relationships and then asking for help when it's appropriate and when it's necessary, I think people should definitely reach out. And then for people outside of our industry listening, just pray for us. Those of us trying to make films, trying to bring light to the world, there's obviously options people have, but there are some of us trying to bring good stories that is redemptive, that reflects God's redemptive story in our lives. And just pray for us, because we're going to make a lot of mistakes, likely disappoint you, but we are trying, and we need your prayers and support.
Well, I cannot wait to see the next film. You have to let me see it right away. I thank you so much. You are a light here. You are making an eternal difference. You are a dear friend, and I just hope that people get to listen and be inspired. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor.
I want to thank Spencer Folmar, independent producer, for coming and talking to us today at the Hollywood Changemakers podcast. And we thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for joining us. We don't want to lose you, so please get involved. Find out about our prayer call sheets, how you can get a prayer partner, get the updated news of what's going on in Hollywood, and even connect with our local chapters. So join us at HollywoodPrayerNetwork.org.